Welcome to the show. Today's topic, valuing yourself, or valuing yourself as a man, to be more specific. Valuing yourself, or the phrase of valuing yourselves, has been associated with women. A quick Google search, a quick YouTube search, and you will see the results that come back. It's geared or focused towards women, towards women valuing themselves as they should. And there are outlets out there, and there is females and males both, I want to say preaching, but at least having the message out there. Men valuing themselves. When you even think about it, your mind automatically goes to, like, that's something that women do. Men kind of take themselves for granted and kind of put themselves through all kind of hardships. So the valuing yourself is more for, like the search results say, it's more for women and not for men. So most men don't even play with the idea of valuing themselves or valuing ourselves. Maybe societal conditioning, maybe just the way we were brought up, in the way that the message was portrayed to our caregivers. Who knows? But the ultimate truth, or what is the truth, is that when the phrase of valuing yourself is mentioned or comes up, we associate it with a feminine energy, or with women, to be more focused on, just to be more focused. Why is that, right? Why is it that men have a hard time? And it's because of that, the fact that we associate it with a feminine trait, that when we see it, when we might have a friend lost his job, has a broke up with a wife, or a girlfriend cheated on him, a death in the family, they won the lottery. I mean, the lottery one is probably easier one. Approaching women, or fear, or whatever it is in dating and relationships. We all have had it, a buddy, and that we've made fun of, we've kind of clowned, but deep down, or maybe not even deep down, we know that they're undervaluing themselves. Maybe they're with a girl or a wife that maybe to us, we see, hopefully not all about looks, but a disrespectful manner. And, we want to tell our homeboy, like, hey, you know what, like, she shouldn't be talking to you like that, or, there should be some kind of check. And then, mind you, me saying that is stepping into an area where I don't want to dive into yet until there's more groundwork, because it's not just as easy as, I think it's pretty clear now that I don't paint it with a broad brush, just because it's a broad spectrum of individuals. So for any one person to be saying, hey, try this, and for most of you it will work, apparently. Oh, obviously it doesn't, because if it were true, then many people will be, that way, or successful, and or change a certain habit, or kill certain addictive traits, etc. On many examples, negative and good. But there isn't, and a lot of people now, or now, not a lot of people, but just the way we think about it now, is that it has to be this change, is positive, mindset is 100% focused, and effort, which is partly true. I was gonna say 100% true, but it's partly true, but it's just one puzzle in the overall. I wanted to keep it in the puzzle, but let's just say screw it and go picture. Just a small puzzle in that picture, or it's a small brushstroke in the overall painting, to make an analogy that works, because I'm horrible at analogy. So, but we've all wanted to tell our homeboy, like, hey, you know what? Don't worry about it. I know you got fired from that job, but you're good. You're so smart. You're talented. You'll buck up. You'll find a new job. And just in me saying that, I have to fight my wiring, where it says I shouldn't be talking to a guy like that. And for a good part of that, that's should kind of be true, but that's only our caveman instinct, or as some call it, our reptilian mind. But we are so far evolved from that we have to recognize it, but recognize it as just a different world, a different environment. Some of these things that are triggering in us, it's great that we know that it's there, and it's, as men, we should recognize that, carnal need for stuff, and then kind of supplements it with something else. But we have to acknowledge the era we're coming into, the times we're coming into, the change that's happening, the fact that certain social norms are going to evolve to being just the standard. And once it becomes that, that standard, it's only gonna get, and it's all in your eye of the beholder, whether you think it's worse or think it's better, but it's going to flow in the direction that we're flowing now. And call me pussyfooting the pussyfooting right now, but I'm going around all these landmines because that's not the point. Or I don't want to digress my own self in going down rabbit holes that I don't want to go down on right now. It's just the way it has to be. So in my mind, like when I was saying right now, talking that way to a man, most men hearing that, why do we associate it with a woman? Because we've all probably done that to a friend, a sister, a mom, girl we like, the wife, a girlfriend, whatever. I probably repeated myself a couple times there, but a female human, we've all been like, they've been fired, they've been let go. I mean, maybe even now on social media, on all these different apps and stuff. Hey, oh my God, I lost my job, and oh, don't worry, sweetheart, you're so smart, you're so talented, you'll find a new one so quick. But with taking away the sweetheart, I basically said the same thing to my friend, but we associate it with it. Like I said, it's something that we all do, but we do it to a female, not to a man. And your buddy, his reaction is gonna be like, whoa, where is that coming from? Because like men, we're not used to that kind of positive energy coming from another man. And then even then, our mind goes, is he gay? Does he like me? Is he into dudes? If you're like, a straight guy, so your mind just switches. Well, you won't even take the compliment saying, hey bro, you're don't worry about it, there's another job around the corner, and you'll get back on your feet, bro. Like, your mind doesn't seep into, like, and not in all cases again, but in most cases, that's where our mind goes. And hopefully, even if it does go there, your mind is evolved enough to bring it back and say, hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate the good love, and I appreciate the energy. Because in many cases, even when a man approaches it that way, most people, are not, I don't want to say they're users, but they're opportunists. And that's a trait that I don't know if it'll ever go away, but it's been with us since probably we were conscious and of thought, is probably when that came in, the opportunist part. And a lot of people, when you open yourself up to that, saying, hey, giving that positive affirmations and lifting someone else up, the other people become opportunists and say, hey, well, they know that I'm struggling, they have compassion, so I'm going to use them for X. And you might think, what, man using men? Psh, it happens more than you think. Like, you have weed all the time, and like you're being compassionate because they let down or are opportunists. They might pull on that heartstring, so now they're coming over every day to get free weed and get high off of your supply. Or maybe you have beer and they like to drink or liquor. I mean, you got to observe people's actions and how they act towards things you say, the ebb and the flow, and not kind of just throw stuff off. But again, I'm kind of digressing on that part, or I'm digressing, period. Point being is, be careful, people are opportunists. So when you say these things to another man, it kind of has a negative, not a negative, like I said, just a feminine trait associated to it. So most men don't even engage in it. So we just do what we normally do, which is mock, make fun of, and we're like, man, come on, when we see that the feelings are hurt, we're like, man, suck it up, or whatever it is that you say in your fucking circle. But you get what I'm saying. Once you cross a certain line where and some don't, some keep on piling up, which then cause friendships to end, and isolation, and a depressed state, which we for how much we want to blame women and the opposite sex for our depression. God knows we do it a lot to each other, even in the jest that we play around with each other sometimes crosses a line. But I do see hopefully a movement of, and I like that, where you're respecting each other's quirkiness, how whoever this person is showing up, as long as it's cool with who you are, and boundaries and standards you set. And if this person comes into, he might be a little bit of a clown, but if it fits in where you want that in your life, maybe he's driven but he's just a little silly, then it becomes this, this whole other thing. But again, I'm digressing too much. So it's because of these things that we don't open up, we don't have the conversation of valuing yourselves. And it's why it's dominated on a female standpoint, because we suppress it. We're just so good on suppressing it, that we don't feel comfortable opening up. And in many cases, we think we might be isolated. When you start going down that, rabbit hole, however you got to that, rabbit hole, you start understanding that no, there is many, many, many men, and not only on YouTube and online. I mean, Reddit and Instagram. I mean, there's just so many, even on TikTok. You'll find that there is men and women. I'm talking about men valuing, and men are opening up, but not as much as is needed. Curve the horrible numbers that are affecting men in daily lives, and it's good to see. So the more we get that message out there, that it's okay for men to value themselves, and to talk to other men about valuing themselves without looking down at our masculinity, is a good thing. So it matters a lot to be able, just because a lot of us take it for granted. And when we do say, or when we take it for granted, because I think anyways, when we think about valuing yourself, one, we think about it as a female thing, and two, we associate it, if we do associate it with us, is our time, which is great. I completely agree. When we think of valuing yourself, we equate it with time. And again, it's true, but it's more. There's so much more to value than time, which, great, I get it. Time, you can't get it back, but you can't. There is no one on earth. There's dead time. There is just time that's gonna be wasted regardless. You could be on a flight, and I get it. You could be reading a book. You could be, and great, you should be always learning, always flowing, always moving, always in a direction, because a law does kind of stumble you, and I get that. But, and again, when you think about it as value, yes, there is that, but there is so much more. Value yourself, and it's gonna add this. I was gonna go robust, or I was thinking redundant. I don't even know if that's a word, but I was thinking redundant, which I'm not trying to use big words. It's literally what comes up to my head, and I'm learning to allow my thoughts to catch up to my mouth. Anyways, you guys don't need to know that. But so when we associate, yes, it's time, and valuing yourself and valuing your time is a great form of valuing yourself, because you're taking, and that's why valuing your time is important. But we take it for granted, again, because we have a negative idea of it, and we associate it with women valuing yourself, unless, with the exception of certain avenues of men are doing their own kind of self-help, or seeking that kind of ideology, or not even ideology, just finding answers, that find that there are men that are valuing not just their time but other aspects. Men waste I'm just gonna mention a few, not a ton of them. All these things or don't value it, to stay in theme. Don't value these things that I'm about to mention, which then causes to get in ruts. That's why when we hear these ideas of valuing time, yeah, but what is valuing time, right? And like I said, you could be on a flight, you're gonna have dead time, and you could find some stuff like reading a book and et cetera, but how do you do that, right? How do you even begin that? Because that's the problem. It's never the hurdle number 2, 3, and 4. It's just hurdle number 1. How do I get started? That's how most of the stuff happens. is most of the searches. How do I? That's why it's, the boom of all these search engines is why that is. How do I fix this? How do I do that? How do I? Because men don't know what else comes after valuing your time, it leads to ruts in our life. So we might be advancing in a couple of mediocre things or non-important things, and really, really behind on stuff that matters, that is going to direct us towards the ultimate vision of what we have. But at the end of the day, that is what is needed. What is the vision that you have? I could mention whatever in this list, but if you don't have at least a vision or a direction, saying screw it, I'm going north. I don't know what's there, but that's where I'm going, because over there is going to be something different. I'm starting. At least you have a direction. If you're just kind of going, well, I'm going to go here today and there today and here today, and you're just going to end up, and that's not where you want to be. You have to at least have a direction or a vision of where you see. Some people could be as little as leaving a horrible job. It could be leaving a horrible relationship. It could be getting, away from horrible parents, horrible siblings, horrible family, horrible friends. It could be, just getting over terrible fears. It could be many things. Anyways, when we don't have an overall kind of sense of value in every aspect of our entire lives, that's when we feel like we don't, like I said, accomplish. Even though when most people think, oh, working out, that's fine. But if you have, working out and getting your body right, it's most of the stuff when you hear about valuing yourself and valuing so when you go into the gym, but going to the gym, but you have an addictive personality, it's just another redirection of your addiction. Now it's just being able to use it in the gym, and it's great. You're using it in a positive way, but yet you haven't for overall, you just took it from a blue cup to a red cup. Basically, there's no more overall value or unvalue or just negative value in any of those actions. You still have the same addictive tendency as you did before, or whatever habit or whatever malice you had before you did the switch from that to the gym. Again, you're just redirecting that energy, which is great. It's something that I talk about, is at least directing it to a positive state. The only way we're gonna get over that addictive personality, it might never completely go away, or not only addictive personality, but any bad thing that we associate bad, and that's only for you to judge. I'm not here to say any one thing is bad or good. It's whatever you to yourself know that is bad. So the only way you kick it is by broadly, expanding it. Expanding your value, your sense of value, your your morale of value. Right, you expand it, and then once you expand that, and you start valuing more things than one particular thing. In this example that I'm going off of is just time. And when that branches out to more areas of your life, and you focus that value concept in your whole life ultimately. But it takes, like everything, if you do it in a whole, it's going to be very difficult to complete. So what you want to do is, do it on the things that matter. That's why, like I said earlier, when we feel like we got in a rut, is because we achieve stuff and we succeed stuff that is little. Like I said, when I went off in the fitness thing or the going to the gym thing, we feel like we're accomplishing because our body is getting better. But if our issue is drugs, or if our issue is anger, if our vision is if our well, anger and the gym might help, but if it's because you waste money, because if it's whatever serious thing that maybe you're tardy to work and you're not honoring and respecting your job, you going to the gym has no effect on those things, right? It's great that you're doing it, but you're not valuing your job. You doing whatever it is, it's great, but it's an unimportant. What is important, or what should have a more importance, is because it puts a roof over your head, it puts food in your belly, and it pays for the membership to you be at the gym. So the priority should be, how do I develop better at work, or how do I get to work on time, What do I need to change in my sleeping pattern? Do I need to go to bed earlier? If you have kids or a family, it might be different. It might be talking to your wife and saying, hey, I have a hard time, but I need to go to sleep an hour earlier. Maybe no food at a certain time. I don't know. Only you know what problem that would be if it kind of hits home to you. You see that you're succeeding at the physical aspect, but if you're struggling at work, you're gonna just end up feeling like you're in a rut, which is the whole point of the digression. Is that we're succeeding in small stuff, but where the stuff that matters, we just keep on failing because we don't value that. So, anyways, without digression over, the list here that I wrote was again time, and I've gone ad nauseum at this point with time. Number two, and I went on number three a little bit, and this is not in order, but it's just the first one is definitely what we associate the most. After that, it's all more like what I feel men should value also in their lives. So number two that I wrote down is space, like where you live, your house, your apartment, maybe your room if you're sharing, with roommates, whatnot. But your space, value it, pick up, clean up, keep it fresh, keep it tidy. At work, keep everything organized. Know what your functions are. Everything has a flow. Everything has not a control, but everything just looks, is aesthetically pleasing. So you value your space, where you are, and that's just going to create a better off flow. I've already discussed, number three, job, keeping, or I just hit it, even I just hit it, in number two, in your space, your job, keeping everything, valuing your job. And yes, like I said, in number two, you're, keeping it tidy, but showing up on time, keeping a clean appearance, being sure you know what your functions are, being respectful, that kind of stuff, having a value, because that job, no matter what, you might be angry because you think you may be, you're getting underpaid. We all think we're getting underpaid, but no matter what, we accepted the job, so we need to add the value in there and the respect of that, that the value entitles to that job, saying, hey, this title is, this job is providing the lifestyle that I have currently, which is allowing me to seek a new and better lifestyle. So we need to be able to our jobs and where we work. Also, number four is a very important one, is adding value to our boundaries and expectations, because we could have the weakest boundaries and the weakest expectations, and it's the same thing that you hear a lot. If you set the bar low enough, if you add value and you start saying, what, I value someone that listens to me, I value a job that is that compensates hard work, I value friends and family that are active in calling me and texting me and seeing that if I'm okay, and I value, the value of a dollar or whatever, or I value a living space, where I could, whatever, fill in the blank. Having that, adding that value, especially like I said, in values and expectations, is just going to make those boundaries, expectations, and standards that much more higher, where only people that are really, really interested in reaching that standard because they put a value on you, that's the goal and that's the ticket. Another thing that men should value in themselves is trust. We trust way too easy. We trust our friends way too easily. We trust our job way too easily. Like, oh, they won't fire me. They'll be here. I could slack off. There's way too much trust in relationships. There's way too much trust. All the numbers show that you shouldn't trust no one. Cheating is at an all-time high. Both sexes, men and women, over 50%. Everyone's cheating with dating apps. Everyone's looking. Everyone's on the market. It's not just women. It's both men and women right now. They don't respect. There's no loyalty. And I'm going to get to a whole podcast on loyalty, but there is no more loyalty. There is no more of that. the fact that jobs turn around employees so much, the fact that family can be broke. I mean, friends and family can be broken because someone has a political issue. Trust is a word we say because, oh, it's family, I'm gonna trust them, or he's been with me since like 7 years or 10 years, and I trust him. Nah, like, and even just normal people. I know I went 7 and longer relationships, but I wanted to emphasize that it don't matter how the length of it. The trust should be a heavily guarded and always. I know I'm gonna. It sounds like all daily, but it should be earned daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. It's a friendship should be renewed. You shouldn't just have a lifetime pass. It should be a thing that should be renewed. Like every relationship, whether it's physical, romantic, friendship, acquaintance, whatever, it should be something that should be always on a development. And that's where the trust comes in, because we trust too easily. So people are, like I said earlier, opportunists. So we trust, and then what happens? We end up hearing these horror stories from both. Not, I know this is a men's show, but we've heard it from men, of course, but we've definitely heard it from women. And it's because we just trust too easily, and then it leads us to heartache. We trust that our job's gonna have the best intention for us, but then COVID hits, and 60% of the employment is gone. You know, you've been with a job for 30 years doing everything correct. COVID happens, boom, done. You trusted that the job was always gonna be there, but you didn't know about this 30 years ago. You didn't know about this 2 years ago. All of a sudden, boom, you're out with the world, look unemployed, not knowing what you're gonna do or what your next step is. Why? Because we trust. And I know I'm taking that to an extreme, and I'm guilty of it too, that I fall into that trap. I think we've all fallen into that trap, and I hear a lot of YouTubers saying the same thing, that everyone fell into this trap. Not maybe YouTubers, but like I've heard comedians and stuff like that, or people that do like shows. Like a lot of the artists that do, like for here in Vegas, they have a thing called First Friday. They can't do it because the social distancing. And I don't even know. I mean, I might be wrong. It might be happening now, but honestly, I've been so busy with so much other things that I haven't been as focused or as in tune with the community. But they would have these art shows, or not art shows, but every First Friday they would get out, and I'm sure every state has their own version of it, or every city has a version of it, where we support or try to support local artists. And it's a little area here close to downtown where they put it out, but a lot of them can't do it. I know a ton of waitresses from restaurants that aren't getting no tips. Are they went from a lifestyle of close to over to 6 figures, now only getting what their job would entitle, which, because they got the bare minimum. Most of these jobs were like minimum wage, but they were getting tips, like ridiculously high tips a night, that they lived a certain lifestyle. Now all of a sudden, bam, what do? You got to change your whole mindset. That's the nice thing, increasing in OnlyFans accounts apparently through the pandemic, in both male and female. Not just we focus on the females, but there's been male accounts too on the right. But the point being is that we trust too much. We trust our family is gonna have our back, and then they don't. We trust that our dog's gonna be there, and then they die, and it breaks our hearts. And I know I probably shouldn't have gone to that extreme, but yeah, we trust too much of the certainty of. But what life tells us is that there's no such thing as, for us to just give away our trust like that, is why it leads to so many men falling in this depressed states, feeling like the trust is gone, even when some of the times we know, but we don't want to think about losing our loved ones, the ones we care about. And I know in that horrible example about a dog, but because we trust so much that this puppy or this dog is going to be with us forever, that the ultimate end, when it does come, hits us that much harder, because we kicked the can, in this instance, death, down the road. That when down the road came, we weren't unprepared. Just as if we would have just acknowledged the fact that, hey, this little being here, this life form, is gonna pass before I do. So I have to be I have to have that ultimate vision, or the ultimate, end, I guess, of this relationship. And my trust has to be guarded, because if I don't, my trust in that death ultimately is gonna come. I'm gonna be heartbroken, and I might lead into depressed. And you might think, oh, silly, it's a dog, but I know another person loosely that when their pet died, I'm talking about depression, clinical depression, which was I want to say horrible, not horrible to see and sad to see. Honestly, for me, it was really interesting to see how the attachment to the dogs that they had, and how it led them no different than if they it would have been. And I don't want to associate it too gruesome or negative. Let's just say it was very similar to negative experiences with human to human interactions. It was for me. It was definitely, like I said, interesting to see on in both accounts. Someone really close to me as someone to kind of on the outside, really don't know them personally, and then kind of heard through different friends and sources. So again, anyways, different, very interesting for me. And the one of the last ones, but definitely from the last one on this list, but definitely not. Doesn't stop there. It's the number of it. What you could add value to is you could add value to your diet. You could add value to your style. You could add value to start with just wherever you feel you need the most change, and start broadening up. This is just like, again, if you start broadening out your sense of value, instead of what the popular thing is, valuing your time, which is great. But some of the stuff where you start adding value is no waste of time and doesn't take any more effort, just in a sense of changing mindset and putting that value in your mindset. Then it has to start growing like a plant. You have to plant the seed before you get the flower or get the fruit or get whatever. So you have to just start with that seed, and allowing the proper harvesting time to happen. And it's just going to take with trial and error and time and effort and habit formings. And you have to go out and water the plant, water the seed, even though you don't see anything happen. And even when you see a little bit sprout, you still got to even nurture it more and focus on other nutrients. So just because I said about the seed, so I got to, my mind says I have to finish the analogy that I'm trying to make. Again, there's a lot more than, I don't want to seem like restrictive, like this has to be it, because it's not. There's so many more. But your inner circle, valuing your inner circle, valuing what you're listening to every day. And not in social media or anything like that. Valuing, like, who's around you, and those people that are around you. What is that message that they're? What is that energy flow that you want? So you might want to you're maybe into meditation, self help, and blah 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 blah, and that's great. And if that's important to you, then that's the circle that you want to kind of bring into your circle and have around your circle. And it's not important as far as like if you're seeking to build something and accomplish something, but it's important in a sense where it's going to have you in that state. And the more you're in that state, the more that becomes your standard and a regular kind of a thing, where you could build from there. And that's where you develop a new plateau. You now achieve level 4 or level 5, level 6. You're just leveling up, as these kids say nowadays. So when you value your inner circle, and again, many, when I say your inner circle, will think of your friends, which is great, but it's also your family. It's also your what you do on your lunch break during your inner circle could also be what you watch online. What kind of influence you are taking in. And for many people nowadays, the online is more of an inner circle from people around you. Like sometimes a stranger, like InfoWars, or some of the more obscure, like Reddit, or some of the other alternative and news sources outweigh friends and family that we grew up with, people that are close to us sometimes. So I add that there, because sometimes our inner circle is so toxic and bad because of that internet, because of Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, because of that. Which is, I'm not saying technology is wrong, or bad or anything. I'm saying sometimes the internet is used for information. people are using it as truth. There is truth out there, don't get me wrong, but there's also lies. But that's not what the internet is for, or anything. Social media, it's for meeting and intermingling and stuff like that, but it's for information, and people have now taken it and crossed it over to truth. When I talk about inner circles, I want to definitely make sure that you see what you're looking at. If you're looking too much at Facebook, Instagram, and I know I'm looking at, I'm singling those, out. It's just the more PG version of it. But if you're turning on and Pornhub and you're whacking it 3 to 4 days a week, or a day, and 7 days a week, that is your inner circle. But a lot of men won't acknowledge that that's your inner circle. If you're opening up your app, or focusing because you're trading and all that great, and you're just focused on the news about trading and whatnot, that is your inner circle, not your friends and your buddy. If it takes up 16, 17 hours of your day, that's your inner circle. You just have to acknowledge that, and then understand that you have to put value in that. So, and a lot, even in that, they know where to add, where they store their values. Some correct, some incorrect, because no one's perfect. No one could predict the market, and for the most part, they have a horrible track record. But they start attributing some value to the sources that they hear. And just like in that analogy with the stock trader, just like everything, you're gonna put value in someone else's thing, and you're gonna maybe attach it or add value to certain areas in your life, and they're not all gonna be hits. They're not gonna be, knock them out of the park. Some of them might be misses, but it's great. It's great. You have to have those misses to make sure that maybe it wasn't as important as other stuff, that's more prevalent in your mind. And at the end of the day, you have to get to the stuff that's more important, which is the whole sense of this. Stop focusing on the small stuff and focus on the major stuff. But the only way you're going to do that if you start adding value to it. And sometimes you're going to add value to something that doesn't matter. For my instance, was like, I mentioned the thing about, I used to smoke. I added value to smoking because it released me from stress. Oh, because of a long day. Oh, after sex is so great. Oh, after a great good meal. Oh yeah, there's nothing better than a cigarette after meal. Now that I've quit, and I'm not gonna go down the avenue of how I quit. Of course, I know that I was adding value, and many of you that are currently smoking know that you're adding value in a negative way to smoking. You shouldn't, but you're just adding. It's more of an excuse, not even a value, but you are, because the fact that it calms you down, or that you feel it does, or that it feels that great after sex or after this. There is an inherent value, whether it's a cheat for your mind to get past the fact of your bad habit, debatable, as some popular or a popular says, or phrase as is being said. But for me, I was obviously placing bad value, but the lead up to them, I added value to the fact that not only I made it the same excuses that I said to you guys, but also the value of me quitting. And I've gone down that rabbit hole again. I'm not going to go down the whole, rehashing or retelling of the story. And I'm sure I will in a later, more appropriate podcast. I added the value to both, and which ultimately led to my quitting. And looking back at it, the value that I added to it, was such a low priority, but such a high effect, and that was like, what people would say the risk reward, concept and whatnot. But so, once you start doing that, you're going to have to go through putting value on stupid shit, and then realizing that, and this goes through relationship and everything, once you start understanding that you just valued something that was not valuable, you get to just say, leave it alone, and you let it go, and you move on to something that is more valuable. And that's what ultimately has to happen, and that will give you lead up to your core values, lead up to your core expectations, and blah blah blah, all that all that shit that I'm spewing is gonna lead to that. But you have to add value, not just the only thing. Again, the whole purpose of this is that it's a broad spectrum, and I'm probably losing a bigger battle than by going more broad. And I mean, there's not enough time, that's for sure. And I'm sure I'll get into more narrowing of for me, I want to make sure that it's just a more broader, message, that don't be disappointed that you add, you place a high value in a horrible woman, or a horrible relationship, or a horrible work environment, or horrible parents, or horrible siblings, or horrible acquaintances, or you added value to a certain experience that didn't lead to whatever. It's okay to have value, and then to understand where, you're gonna do it. Once you start having that outlook, it's not gonna be perfect, but you'll definitely know, like, you'll spot it, and you'll know, like, hey, this is not valuable. And that's where, you see a lot of women when they say, hey, if there's a man that no one wants, why do I want him? It's that primal thinking, which is the same thing for, but not to the same, maybe, dramatic extent. But it's that part, and we just associate it with so many different aspects. But once it's just a normal habit of humans. Once you know something is not valuable, you take it for granted and you move on to the next. It's that child mentality. Hey, this toy is valuable right now, but once I get my fun out of it, I'm done. I'm moving on. I want something new. I want something next. And that's just the way we are. So it's okay that we have horrible. We're gonna add value to horrible things, unvaluable things, but that is the process where it by the process of elimination. We'll remove that value and add it to stuff that matters. Then that starts leading to the higher quality of life. And that's why you want to add value to as many areas as you possibly can in your life. It's going to increase your quality of life, the people around you in your life, just the value of your own life. Not by dollars. It might be by dollars. It might be by love. I don't know what your goal is, or what your dynamic, but whatever. I can assure you this: if you add value to every aspect in your life and start moving from there, you'll notice where you're adding value to people or places or things that don't really appreciate what don't the value that you're placing on them, and the value that you're placing on them. And this includes work. Value yourself. And as men, it's super important that we spread the message. And if you see a man and he's undervaluing you in yourself, I know it's not the norm, but yeah, it's all right, to pick someone up. It's all right to say, hey, bro, don't worry about it. You're a catch. You're a great dude, and you're gonna find someone better. And as a man, it shouldn't be a weird thing, or get you, into a weird space. It's something that needs to be said, and it's why, say what you want to say about women. It's why women's circles are the way they are, because what do we hear when when the girl might break up with a 10, right? But the women around them, their homegirls, oh, that fool ain't nothing. That fool ain't ish. Go off on a rah rant with her, and make her and gas her up, where she feels like she's a 10 and it's his loss. And that's the difference, that they move on so quickly. And we, some men are and some men, not even men, even when we lose our job and we don't get that concept that we're replaceable, and I was like, oh, they don't appreciate my 30 years of service, and da 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 da. Or you be all the job will be there forever, and I could have a sense of not savings and not having a plan for my ultimate outcome in life. Once you start adding value to these parts, or every part in your life, the quality of it, like I said, is just gonna get better. And it's gonna take time, like everything. But that's the whole thing. We have to broaden our horizon, broaden our thought when we hear, hey, value yourself. It's not just specific to women, and it's not just about time. It's about valuing everything. And like I said, I know I only mentioned a few, and I mentioned some others, but there's a ton of stuff you could add value. And once you start adding value to it, in whatever aspect, whatever place in life you are right now, it's gonna lead to the ultimate outcome, which is a better whatever of you. So I hope I made you guys think. I hope you guys found some value in this video. Share the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for listening. Until next time.